Sponsored by Anthony Mendez.
AM 1220 KDOW and Money 2.0 present The Real Estate Report with Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines. Bay Area real estate and mortgage experts with over 25 years in the business. Now, with an in-depth look at this week's local and national real estate news and what it means for you. Your hosts, Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines.
Welcome into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Thanks for being with us today. This is the Real Estate Report, and we're talking everything real estate. It has to do with your market here in the Bay Area, California, as well as the rest of the United States. And, you know, it could be political, it could be economics, it could be just your local trends here in the Bay Area, or, you know, what are people doing, basically. And we're fortunate enough to get many phone calls, many emails, and we kind of have our finger on the pulse of real estate, as you know, per se, here in the Bay Area and the rest of the nation. Gordon, you've been in the business for
a long time,
28 years, I think.
I always say every week, I always say time is clocking. I was thinking about this morning actually, and one of the things about mortgages, the great thing about mortgages, we always push the clock further than we are. So applications that we're working on right now, we're actually working on August 1st payment. Yeah. So you're always 2 to 3 months ahead of the calendar. So I say time is clocking because we're always ahead of the clock.
Oh, okay. Always ahead of the times. Yeah. How about we say it that way? That I think people
like
recognize
the clock,
that.
Always ahead of the clock.
Always ahead of the times. Okay, we can argue. We can agree.
You say time, I say clock. How's that?
So there's plenty of stories out there. I think the big one out there was that U.S. home sales fell 2.5% in April. And mortgage rates are still kind of around 7-year highs. Don't read too much into that story. I love this article. There's a great website that I always go to when it comes to rates. It's kind of geeky, so to speak. You know, unless you're heavily tied towards what rates do, this is a great. You don't want to go to this website, but it's got some great comments from this one article. Freddie Mac is just wrong. You look at their weekly survey, and you can see that 4.66%, which is their average right now. It's usually a week or two late, and rates have come down a little bit. We don't want to keep saying that rates are going up, when in reality we don't get it. You know, we don't get the averages in a timely manner. So they have come back down from those 7-year highs to actually 2-week lows. So if you were looking to lock, I think it's a good time to start looking at that. What are your thoughts on the direction of rates right now? We've seen the yield go over 3%, Gordon, and then it's kind of creeped back down. We're seeing some weird things that Trump is doing, yet we are seeing some good inflation numbers, good employment numbers. The Fed had their minutes come back. You know, the stock market did great. I mean, there's so many things right now that are affecting where interest rates are going to end up. But what's your thoughts?
Well, short-term rates, in my opinion, kind of goes with the market. Whatever the market does, you're going to see that reflection in the short-term rate. When I say short-term, I mean daily trend. Like right now, we got some turbulence with this thing they had with South Korea plan. You look at the stock market, the stock market definitely reflects that, and you'll see the market affects that. When unemployment numbers come out, when stats come out, you see rates tend to kind of, even if they inch up an eighth, a quarter of a point, a tenth of a point, it's an upward trend. And then you see as soon as the market kind of corrects itself, you'll see the rates kind of come back down. So short-term rates are always, I call it the roller coaster ride. You just got to be ready. That's why it's very, very hard to time things. That's why I always tell people, if you have a rate that you're all comfortable with and you lock it in, it's very difficult to risk because we never know when the high and when the actual low is.
Yeah, and that's that long-term trend that I think everybody has a consensus that it's going up. Fed still thinks they're going to raise interest rates a couple times this year. That doesn't necessarily mean higher interest rates for mortgages. What it means is the overnight rate and, you know, their short-term lending rate is going up. But it also does signify that the economy is doing a little bit better, which does kind of warrant higher interest rates and higher yields, which translate into higher mortgage interest rates. So I guess we're just going to have to play it out. You know, I think a lot of people are worried that home prices will keep going up faster than incomes, faster than down payments, and then you have interest rates are going higher at the same time, and it's just getting kind of a compounded effect here, Gordon, about buying a home. We have right now, and I can't remember that, but let's just say it's 10 years. It could be even longer than that of the percentage of first-time home buyers buying houses. It's 37%. The average is around 40. So we're on the lower end of first-time home buyers. I see it affecting it a little bit right now, and you know, especially with the shortage of inventory.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, in the mortgage business, we're always ahead of the clock. You know, in economic and financial news, we're always lagging the clock. So when you mentioned earlier that in March and April, new home sales were down. That's lagging news. So that news doesn't catch up until late May. So you see how the effect of something that happened in the past comes back to the future, and something happens as present goes to the future. So that's the way how our market is. It's an upside down market. Everything goes up, does come down, and it's all reflection back in the sense of time. That's why it's very, very hard to time the marketplace. It's like the stock market: buy low, sell high. You're doing great. The problem is we never know when the high is. We never know when the low is. But what I'm seeing right now, and I'm talking to a lot of different realtors, there are a lot of people out there that are nesting. When I say nesting, meaning that they're waiting for opportunities to get in the marketplace. So I do believe if we see the market begin to come down some, you'll see a gluttony of buyers that have now seen an opportunity to buy where they couldn't buy when the market was on this upward trend.
So that actually supports my theory that the market won't go down, because there are a lot of shadow buyers, I think is the actual term being used right now. And they're sitting on the sidelines and they're waiting. And when that inventory does hit, and it could, it might not just be the right price. Some people are looking for the right property in the right neighborhood. So we could see it very regional and go all the way down to neighborhoods, Gordon, and we start seeing these pop up. I still think there's enough buyers out there. And let's talk specifically about the Bay Area. Everything's going over asking price. There's minimum 8 offers on every property. And if we're still getting 8 offers on every property, and there's still people sitting on the sidelines that are going to take their places once they buy, I think we still have a healthy market for sellers. Buyers, it's a struggle. And I mean, we can, in the mortgage business, we work with this all the time. You have to be well prepared, and it's not the spiel that we need to talk about right now. But the point is I see that as a healthy part of the market, that there's still plenty of buyers there.
It is,
whether you call them a shadow buyer or an active buyer.
It is a trend. Matter of fact, I got a call from a realtor just before I got on the show. There was a client that I wrote a pre-approval for, and they had 27 offers on this one particular property. And she said that she's putting out a highest and best, meaning that all the offers were submitted. People get a chance to revamp the offer, basically increase your offering price if you want the property, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Which is kind of interesting, because once again, we can't be too bearish in the marketplace if you got 27 people lined up for one property. That's the balance.
What is that called when the offer it floats? So basically, if there's, let's say you offer $800,000, but the next highest bid is $825, but you put in a little clause in your offer that says I'll go $10,000 over the highest offer. What's that called again?
I don't know the specific term for that, but
would you recommend that?
I haven't seen that. I mean, that was an old strategy people used to use years ago. I haven't seen that actually in any of the offers that I've actually previewed and needed realtors that I've talked to. That was an old tactic that people use, and I don't know how effective it is. But right now, what typically happens is when you have multiple people going off the property, and that estate agent is going to come back and say, hey, listen, we got multiple offers. We're going to put back a counter, put your highest and best, put your best foot forward, basically. And that your best foot forward could be your stay-in. You're staying at the offer you put in. Your best foot forward, you can go up $5,000 if you feel that there's some room there that you kind of held back a little bit. You're willing to risk another $5,000 to get that property, because if you lose it by $1,000, you're upset, and that's what typically happens.
How many of those buyers right now that are sitting on the sidelines, your nesters, your shadow buyers, whatever you want to call them, are hearing us talk about this and just say, you know what, I'm just sick of it. I'm not going to get into this. We talked to a woman this morning. She's well qualified, makes good Bay Area money. She's single, and she's looking for to move out of a very expensive area into a place that's close to work, which happens to be east, which not a lot of people have that ability to do and still work. And she's like, I just don't. What's the state of the market here? I like the peninsula, but I come out here a little farther east, and I just don't like. It's just like a sleepy town. Where's the nightlife? Where's the culture? It's interesting that she said that, because it really shocked me that I didn't think of that, because most of the people we see are moving for a bigger house because of kids, or they're just looking for a house they can afford. What do you make of the kind of, again, that goes to a person who's looking for a particular type of property. She says, it might not happen. I might not find something. But do you think it just, this conversation we're having, how tough it is as a buyer, is it just, there's got to be some people just flat out discourages from getting in the market. I mean, we know we've had people drop off.
Well, some of those are nesters. I mean, I think, you have to have a strategy in a competitive marketplace. I don't care what it is. If you're competing if you're in a dorm, you're competing for a girl and there's 5 guys going after her, you have to have a strategy and how you're going to be successful in your formula. That's the bottom line. I don't care what it is.
What was your strategy, by the way?
My strategy was
there was one girl and 5 guys.
Stay on the sidelines and don't say anything. That was my strategy. But now you can't do that in actual real estate. You actually actually have to say something. You got to
put an offer in.
You got to put an offer in. You got to, the old squeaky wheel gets the oil. You got to be calculating. You got to tell a story, as we talked before. Sometimes the story is what makes it. The seller might not sell to the highest bidder. Matter of fact, I have a story on that too. I just talked to another agent earlier where 4 other offers came on the property, and she's actually going with our client that made the offer that we're doing a pre-approval for, because the sellers like this story. They're local people. They've been trying to get in the housing market for a while. They've been renting in the neighborhood, and the seller's actually going to take a little less to sell to these people. You got to sell your story. You have to have a strategy.
I totally agree, and I think a lot of that has to do with working with a realtor that knows the area. I have a client. I kind of hope he's not listening today, but he's using a realtor to buy a property in a different county, and there's many counties in between the 2 counties that he lives in, and the realtor works in the county he's in now, but buying in that other county. I kind of want you to work with a realtor that's in the area. You have that advantage right away. That realtor may know the listing agent, might even be the same agent that has the house, and you're working with the same person, and they know firsthand what you need to offer on the property, which is a whole nother story. Should you use the listing agent as your realtor just to cut through the red tape and get right to the ultimate answer, which is what do I need to offer on that property to get it? But you got to work with somebody that works in the area and a professional that can put together that good story for you. And that's so terribly important in this environment, including your pre-approval. And we had somebody call the other day, Gordon, and asked for proof of assets. The listing agent called us and said, where's the proof of assets?
I've had many stories I'd like to share. The listing agents call us and say, hey, Gordon, I just want to make sure this person approved. What are their ratios? It's this person's actually an astute person. How much money they're putting down? Where's the money coming from? The money readily available? All these questions that I was getting that made a difference, I believe, in the offer being accepted or not. If I was not on top of my game and know the file and my borrower inside out, I would have not have been an asset that I was. The borrower was successful in get that offer accepted because I was there to answer all the questions, all the concerns that they had. And the other qualifying question that she asked me, she said, Gordon, this buyer is going in $65,000 over asking price. If this property does not appraise,
what happens?
What happens? Can he make up the difference? Can he lower his down payment to make up the difference? So all those questions that I was asked on, I believe that the fact that I knew my buyer, my product, and I knew Linden, I was able to give the answer correctly that she was looking for, and that I think ultimately that got the offer accepted.
It's important you use professionals in this business on all ends. I'm seeing more and more people use CPAs even, especially with the new tax laws. Tax reform is throwing a bone into all that. People still have a lot of questions about what they can write off, what they can't, what are our tax deductions, what are our interest deductions. We're single or we're married, we file separately. Surround yourself with a good team. That's incredibly important, and put a good story together. We're going to come back after this break here on AM 1220 KDOW. That's Gordon Hines. I'm Tony Mendez. You can always call the show, join the conversation, 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220, or shoot us an email, tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com or Gordon@BayAreaLoanSource.com. We'll come right back after this break.
This is Money 2.0 on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Thanks for being with us. You can call the show, 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220, or email us, tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com or Gordon@BayAreaLoanSource.com. Increasing number of homes built as rental property. So we're seeing, we watch the builders' reports and talk about new home building, but it's up. More homes are being built ready to rent as opposed to being built ready to own and live in. More than we've seen back since 2005. It's up to 4.3%. It's not a big number, but you can see that that's really not helping, the homeownership rate, which kind of ticked up a little bit in the last several months, but not enough to really make a big difference. And it's still low. We're still like 23-year lows. Does that sound about right, Gordon?
Well, the only thing I can think of, if you look at California passed, I think early in the year, the auxiliary home law, where you can turn, as long as it's an unoccupied single-family house, you can add an auxiliary house onto it. But if you look at the economic scale of that, as prices go up and affordability becomes an issue, if you have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house and versus a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. And the home is constructed, we have the front door and the back door. It's so much easier to bring a renter. And so the home builders, I believe, are getting more in line with that. Well, how these design these homes and they build these homes, they can be easily rent. You can bring in additional rent in order to make the affordable, in order to kind of shorten the affordability gap. That's the way I kind of see it. It's just a trend.
I think it's a trend of this is a nation of renters. If you're at 62.5% homeownership rate, which is like we said, it's the lowest in 20-something years. And builders are focusing a little bit more than they did on average on building rental properties. Shoot, you go to Reno and there's whole swaths of them. I'm driving with my dad and he goes, see all those homes right there? They're being built for rentals right there. And you're looking at like 100 and 200 homes. With that said, a little other piece of news. I was questioning whether or not to talk about this. Higher gas prices. A lot of people are moving farther away from their jobs so they can buy a house, and all of a sudden gas prices go up, and it kind of translates into buying power, right? So let's say you have a budget. You're already paying 50% of your paychecks going towards rent, and you're like, okay, I want to get some write-offs if I buy a house. I keep my mortgage payment about the same as my rent, and now gas prices go up, and I'm going to be driving 15, 20 miles, maybe even 40 miles, double that, for a two-way trip, and that's starting to cost money. You get $3.50, $4 a gallon, and that starts adding up, and that's buying power. I think there was a stat that said that for every $100 that you spend a month on gas, that's about 11% in buying power. I'd have to run the numbers on that, but you kind of get my idea. People are moving farther and farther away, but that it's all about monthly payment.
Well, additional expense is always an issue, especially when you become a homeowner. I mean, you move from renting to home ownership. It's a bigger jump than what you actually think. Let's say, for example, you're paying $2,000 for rent, and let's say you buy a house. You're fortunate enough to have enough down payment to buy a house, which the mortgage payment is $2,000. And I'm just going to assume that includes property taxes and insurance. But if you can't really compare those $2,000 of expense as a renter as $2,000 of expense as owner, because any design, any flaw, any error, any repair needed, any act of God, any act of weather comes in, you're responsible for that damage. And that's a big jump that a lot of times we misappropriate what that actual cost is going to be, because it's such a hard number to put your hand on. Water heater goes out, you don't have a home warranty, all those things, come home and there's 2 broken windows. You don't get to call the landlord. You have to spend that expenditure to repair those costs. So when you look at gas prices that are reciprocal up and down, a lot of times people move further away from their house, and the balance of that, maybe they're not coming to work 5 days a week. They're only coming to work 2 days a week and working from home.
Sure.
So a lot of different things are changing as the economy changes, and it's a whole brave new world out there, and the economy is really changing, and we just really got to buckle up for it, because it's not the way it used to be, and it never will be, because clock is ticking.
We're ahead of the times. So in short, I shouldn't have talked about it.
No, I mean, it's a factor. It's something that you don't consider. Like you just said, you buy a house and all of a sudden gas is up 60 cents a gallon, and then it's just no $100,
it's up 60 cents per gallon on average.
On your budget. That's something you didn't actually budget for. And all of a sudden you want to know why you're running short on money.
Do you think that's one of the biggest flaws that a new homeowner, a first-time home buyer makes, is that they just underestimate, not just the mortgage and taxes and insurance, but all the other stuff that goes along with the utilities.
They do.
The trash, the cleanup, the maintenance, the repairs. Mm-hmm. It just starts adding up. But what's the average that, I think it was that $2,000 a year? I think something like that.
Definitely additional expense.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens on rental property. I had a guy one time was buying a rental property. He mentioned to me, hey, Gordon, the rent's $4,000 and my payment's $2,000. I'm putting $2,000 a month in my pocket. Boy, was he in for a surprise, because there's all those things that happens, that does happen, that can happen, that will happen, that are, once again, come out of your pocket. You have to pay for.
I like the rental scenario, though. You can write all that off. There are some good write-offs.
You can only write up what you have. If he's on a tight budget and he really need that money to qualify, then he's going to be up for a big surprise.
I like the person who says, oh, yeah, I had some great expenses this year. $10,000 I spent. I get to write it off, but you still spent $10,000. We'll come back after this break here on AM 1220 KDOW. This is the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. You can call the show 800-516-1220 or email the show, Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com. We'll be right back.
This is Money 2.0 on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Thanks for being with us. You can call the show 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220 if you want to join the conversation, anything about whatever interests you in real estate. We have a lot of people talk about how to buy rentals, what to do with their rentals. Should they, last week we talked about, or the week before, 1031 exchanges. Maybe you have a couple properties and you want to upgrade them or move them into another property. We could talk about renovation loans. Fannie Mae has this thing called Fannie Mae Homestyle, and it works on rental properties. It's fantastic. And they use the future value of the property to set your loan amount. And you might have to displace your tenant for a little bit, but you can get your property upgraded. There's so many. I think the story behind 2017 has been products, Gordon. We've been just every lender is calling us, hey, we got this. It's an email, it's a flyer. And yes, we have a fax machine. It's a fax. We're getting so many updates on products. And then, I mean, you can buy a $679,000 loan and put 5% down and have no mortgage insurance. With Fannie Mae, it's like, how can they be doing this? You can use bank statements. The products are really what. A lot of that, of course, has to do with the fact that they're trying to attract buyers from all walks of life instead of just the paper buyers. But products, Gordon, it's been your kind of baby for a long time.
I've been saying on the air now for 3 years that the market is not driven by rates; it's actually driven by products. I believe you can have a 0% interest rate versus 10 different products in the marketplace. The 10 different products are going to bring in more buyers than the 0% interest rate, because if you can't qualify, you can't qualify. And it's products that give you the flexibility and can attract more buyers. And that's what we always need to keep the market going. It's like a Ponzi scheme. You always need more and more people or bodies in order to continue the Ponzi. But you mentioned earlier, I think 2 weeks ago, we had the 1031 specialist on the radio. And believe it or not, the following Monday, I got a call from a realtor who was actually listening to the program. She had a unique situation. She had two buyers that she both knew, and they wanted to swap properties. The older couple wanted to buy the younger couple's single-story house, and the younger couple wanted to buy the older couple double-story house because they had a pool. So I was able to put her together with the person, the 1031 exchange specialist, and hopefully I haven't heard back from him yet, but I am hopefully that I was able to solve that question. And that's what we do on the radio. We're always having service, and that's why you have people on to express different thought process, something you didn't think about, and that's why you listen to the show.
So many angles in real estate, whether you own a home or you're going to buy a home. And real estate has a lot to do with renting. A lot of, that's money out of your pocket every month. And I know most people who rent are going, oh, why am I paying a landlord? I should be paying myself. I should be paying myself every month. And, that's part of real estate. Part of real estate is thinking about real estate. And I guarantee most renters, 90 plus, okay, I could be making that number up, are thinking about why they're paying their landlord money instead of paying themselves money. I think one of the stories that 2016, 17, and 18 has brought up is a lot of people who haven't been able to save enough money for a down payment in the area that they want to live, i.e. the Bay Area. It's very expensive, 10% down or 20% down on an $800,000 house, $160,000. But let's say you have $100,000 buys a rental property. You can get a rental property somewhere else in the state, and you got your foot in the door. And then you use something like a 1031 later after you get a couple of those or two. Maybe you can save $100,000 every 2 or 3 years, but you can't buy that house because you don't have it yet, and maybe the home prices go up. So there's so many things that are working. So anything you want to talk about, you can always call the show. We are here to listen. We are here to answer. We love the scenarios. Tony at BayAreaLoanSource.com, Gordon at BayAreaLoanSource.com, or call the show 800-516-1220.
Well, you mentioned renters, and as bullish as I am on home ownership, I strongly believe that not everybody should be homeowners. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. There's some people that just strictly should be renters. Even though we're bullish on home ownership, but it's not just for everyone.
My brother just did it.
It's not for everybody.
My younger brother owns a condo in Alexandria, Virginia, and he sold it so he could go rent because he was sick of doing yard work. And he's the kind of guy, no offense, David, that he doesn't like yard work and he didn't want to do it anymore. So some people shouldn't be homeowners. But he did well on the property. With that said, we'll be right back after this break. Call the show 800-516-1220. Email the show, Tony at BayAreaLoanSource.com or Gordon at BayAreaLoanSource.com. We'll be right back.
This is Money 2.0 on AM 1220 KDOW.
I'm going back to my roots. Another day, another door, another high, another low. Rock bottom.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
I'm Gordon Hines.
You can call the show 800-516-1220. We really appreciate everybody listening and getting all the emails that we get. Tony at BayAreaLoanSource.com. This is, I think, our 7th year running. Same station. We were on Tuesday nights. Now we're on Thursday nights, as obviously. I know there's some people who are interested in the Warriors game right now. I'm not going to give any scores out.
Maybe because you don't know it.
Maybe because I don't know it, but and I'm sure there's a bunch of people turning this channel. Oh, the Warriors were on, but go Warriors! I think that's fantastic that we even live in a city that can produce champions. And I'm a Caps fan, so I'm excited to see the Capitals win. I was at the Stanley Cup Game 4 when they lost to Detroit. They were swept by Detroit. I was at that game, so I'm excited to see 20 years later that they have another opportunity. With that said, I think that's one of the draws of the Bay Area sports. I love sports. I grew up in a town that didn't have sports, and I moved to a town that didn't have sports, and I finally moved here, and it's amazing. That we have, what, 7? Is it 7 professional teams here?
Right. We always talk about sports, and, at the end of the show, we always talk about this day in history. And actually, I picked up 2 tidbits from this day in history. Today, in 1883, the Brooklyn Bridge opened. So it's real estate related, the Brooklyn Bridge. That's the old cliche. If I sold you the Brooklyn Bridge. And actually, the second thing that's sport-wise is Major League Baseball had its first night game in 1935, believe it or not.
1935.
And the Cubs didn't have their first night game until August of 1998. So when Wrigley got lights. It's kind of interesting. So times are always changing.
I don't know.
Fought it for
1998 in
1998
Wrigley?
is when the Cubs got lights in their stadium.
I don't know about that.
That's 20 years ago. It
Okay.
seemed like just yesterday they were fighting.
Sammy
they
Sosa
were
was
doing
there
that
or something
fight.
like that, right?
Yeah. So
When
there
he was-
goes time. Time changes things, and time changes perception. And we just got to keep rolling with it.
We are ahead of the times, and time is clocking, according to Gordon. And so we're in the real estate business. Mortgage side is something that we specialize in as well. I've been in financing for probably 20 years now. Gordon's been in real estate all sides of it for 28 years plus. One of the things that I don't want to say it's unique to the Bay Area, or large, expensive markets across the United States, is people that are moving up from one property to another. And it's we get a lot of emails about this because the scenario is quite difficult. In the past, we used to have something called a bridge loan. And a bridge loan could bridge the equity from one property to another. You remember those, Gordon. They were very popular, very easy to use. They qualified you only on the new loan, not on the old loan that you got. And they used to go up to like 90%, 95% of your equity. So you could really capture the equity and move it over. But those are gone. And if somebody's telling you that there's a bridge loan, it's really a private loan. You have a payment on that loan at whatever percent and how many points, and then you have the new loan and you have to qualify for both, kind of. So what are the options? And we talk about this all the time. Let's say first you have to figure out, do you have enough down payment to buy the new house with under whatever conditions and price that you are looking at without considering the old house? Then you have to consider, do you qualify? So owning both houses, do you have to turn your current house into a rental in order to buy the new house, or can you qualify for both? So some of the options, obviously the most obvious answer, and it's the first one, is to buy the new house contingent on the sale of your old house. But inherently, that's a big problem with sellers, Gordon.
Yeah, but in today's world, and in all candor, it used to be a problem. It's a perceived problem because we know today
by
that
the
if you were-
listing agents.
If you're a seller and you have a property to sell under today's current times in the Bay Area, some areas around the country is not that lucky. You know that house is going to sell, and you know it's going to sell quickly. So you don't have to say, well, I'm not going to accept your offer because you don't have your offer is contingent to sale of your house.
It's like our house is going to sell really
gonna
fast,
sell.
but yours isn't. It's a little hypocrisy there, right?
I'm the transaction we have in that went to loan documents today. This seller is buying a brand new house, and his house was contingent on the sale, and both sales are going to close concurrently tomorrow.
And that's the
Less than
ideal
30
way.
days.
Unfortunately, and there's a lot of people listening that know this, when your realtor, the buyer's agent says, you tell them that, and they're like, I don't know if that's going to kind of fly, because they've also been listing agents and they also see better offers, cash offers, 50% down on $1.5 million price. And so you start looking at some of the other options. Obviously, you can sell your house, go into some sort of temporary housing, and then buy. That way you don't have that contingency to sell your house. And it's pretty self-explanatory. You have to move twice. But it does limit you to one transaction. That's the new well, obviously you sell your property, but I'm talking about a new loan transaction. Another option is to scrape as much down payment together as you can. We talk about products, Gordon, and how they can drive the market. There are products where you can go 5% down. Let's just say 10, because 5% is a little too low, but 10% down on a jumbo loan without mortgage insurance, all the way up to $2 million, right? So if you can scrape that down and you can qualify for the other house on your way out, perfect, right? That's another way to do it. That way you don't have that contingency to sell your house when you're putting your offer on the new house. That's a little tougher to do, because even we had a client, he's looking at a 2.5, he's putting 20% down, and he's going to keep his house over in that he's departing. And we're trying to qualify him without turning it into a rental, because when you turn it into a rental, you have to get a lease agreement, a security deposit. You have to go through the whole headache of I can't be off the record on the radio. So I think you guys get the picture that they're going to get a lease agreement one way or the other, but it's still a hassle. But get the new loan, and then you can either, one, qualify for both, or turn your existing house into or what they call the departing house as a rental. Another thing you can do, Gordon, is refinance before you sell. But there is one inherent problem about that.
Yeah,
Take some cash out.
And a lot of times is one of the lenders is that owner-occupied. The trouble you run into that transaction is when you go back to source where that down payment came from, they saw that you did an owner-occupied refinance. A lot
And
of
then you're
lenders
buying
start squawking about, you're doing two owner-owner transactions within a short period of time. So that's sometimes not the best option. But to me, the best option right now is to both properties are going to sell in this area.
Do contingent on the sale.
Any astute agent out there that knows their marketplace knows it's not an inheritance anymore. So we just got to kind of work through it. That's what I see it.
Last option you can buy as a rental. So you buy the new house as a rental. You keep your house as a primary. You can use the future rents to offset the debt on the new property, and then you sell, move into it, and then you sell your old property. You end up probably doing two transactions, because you're buying this as a rental. You probably won't like the rate for the rental property, but that is a way to help qualify. So it's a combination of, do you qualify? What's your down payment, and where's that down payment coming from? So we do these scenarios all the time. You're welcome to shoot us an email with your scenario, Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com or Gordon@BayAreaLoanSource.com. Again, these are scenarios we love to go over with you.
Yeah. Our best suggestion, if you're thinking about it, give us a call, send us an email, and we'll help you map through it.
We'll come back after this break here on AM 1220 KDOW. I'm Tony Mendez, that's Gordon Hines, and this is the Real Estate Report.
This is Money 2.0 on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
You can always call the show 800-516-1220 or visit our website, BayAreaLoanSource.com. Join our newsletter.
We're here every Thursday from 6 to 7. Drive time special, we like to talk. We know you're driving or probably watching the Warrior game, but we're here to entertain you. For one, of course, you got to have entertainment of piece in any type of communication, either by air or by sea, right? Have that. And we love to get the emails, and that's what we're here for, to help you out, make a better decision you can't have today because you got more information that you had yesterday, and that's what we're here every Thursday for.
A little bit of economic news out there. I think we have a new FHA commissioner, Gordon.
Yeah, the Senate just approved Trump's pick for FHA commissioner. Guy's going to take over effective, I think, June. A guy by the name of Brian Montgomery. He's the new FHA administrator put in by the Trump administration. FHA is big parts of real estate loans. Many, many years ago, FHA was a bad word. After the big crisis that we had back in the 2008, 2009, FHA became a major player in the marketplace. Without FHA loans, the market would have sunk.
It's got up to like 20%, 25% of the mortgage origination was FHA, and it's dropped down to about 12% right now.
Yeah, because
there's a place in the market for it.
Because they had the shortest period of time for a major catastrophic event. Most companies, even today, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac still require 7 years on a foreclosure. FHA is still only 4. So with that said, a lot of people that got priced out the market because they made bad decisions or just the real estate just didn't go their way, they were to come back in the marketplace with an FHA loan.
That's a great way to get yourself back into real estate. Let's say you make good money, but you had that mortgage event or credit event is what they call it. And FHA does have those short periods of wait periods. I think it's, the bankruptcy is wait period shorter, short sale, foreclosure.
You can do an FHA loan in a Chapter 13.
Yeah, one day out, right?
And we do a lot of FHA loans with a strategy. I just did an FHA loan for an older couple that, the LTV was only they need 85% to get cash out to pay bills. But the only way to get it, because the Fannie Mae didn't go that high with cash out to pay off bills and actually consolidate debt and made the house more affordable than FHA loan. Even though they're paying the mortgage or insurance premium, it's still a benefit to them. We do a lot of people, you buy FHA and then you come back and you lose FHA after we finance you to kind of get over the MIP. So it's always a good strategy for it. It's a great loan tool, and we like to tell realtors, when you see FHA, don't run and hide. It's a viable loan product in the marketplace.
It's a good message to tell realtors that. There's no gray area anymore, Gordon. If you're approved, you're approved, right? There's so many automated tools out there from FHA and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Jumbo's a little bit different, but with an experienced loan officer working for you, you can easily diagnose somebody's scenario and get through all that and make a decision. And why would you take less on a property because they're paying cash? Unless you absolutely need to sell it in 10 days and get that cash, why would you take less for somebody that's paying cash than somebody who could pay more with it getting a loan? So those pre-approvals actually mean something. Call your loan officer, and say,
we get a lot of calls from
realtors.
all the time.
If you're a realtor, call the loan officer and interview them. And unfortunately, there are still some out there that are giving shady pre-approvals.
I've seen shady loan approvals come across that I look at the file that we got from another agent that says, Gordon, this guy was in contract. And I look at the file and say, how was this guy ever in contract? This guy
saw that one.
Is not qualified. So not all lenders are the same. Not all people are the same. We bank ourselves on knowledge. We bank ourselves on experience. And we guarantee by what we stand by. If we give you a pre-approval letter, that loan is going to be approved somehow, some shape. Unless some catastrophic event changes after we give you a pre-approval letter. Lost a job, of course, got fired or quit.
We've had people do that, quit their job after they get approved. It's insane that they would do that, but or they go out and buy another car. It's you're not done until you get that check to the seller. With that said, you can always shoot us an email if you have one of those scenarios you want us to review. Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com, info@BayAreaLoanSource.com, or Gordon@BayAreaLoanSource.com. You can find us in many, many different ways. We'll come back next week. Thanks for joining us. That's Gordon Hines. I'm Tony Mendez, and this is the Real Estate Report on AM 1220 KDOW.